The lost human warship returned, and its wrath shook the galaxy. Part 1. The Ghost Ship. The stars trembled as space itself tore open. A massive ship slid through the rippling tear, its dark hull gleaming under the light of nearby Centauri. The ship was huge, almost 2 miles long, with sharp angles and weapon ports that lined its sides. This was the UES Harbinger, once the pride of Earth's fleet, missing for 70 years. Everyone had thought it destroyed in the final days of the Proxima War. Everyone was wrong. Alarms blared across the Centauri trade hub. The massive space station housed thousands of beings from dozens of species, but very few humans. Not anymore. The station's security chief, an Axioni named Vrel, stared at the sensor readings with his 4 eyes widening in horror. "That's impossible," he whispered. "Run the identification protocols again." His assistant, a nervous Axioni junior officer, tapped the console. "Sir, we've run it 3 times. It's the UES Harbinger, the human warship that vanished at the Battle of Proxima. The weapon signatures match perfectly." Vrel's skin paled from blue to almost white. "Contact the Confederation immediately. All channels." Across the trade hub, a human woman named Susan Riley felt her personal communicator vibrate against her wrist. She was the only human allowed in the engineering section, valued for her technical skills despite her species. The Axioni treated humans like tools, useful but disposable. Susan glanced at her communicator and froze. Unknown sender, but the message was clear. Coordinates, followed by 5 simple words. "We have returned. Prepare them." Susan looked around to make sure no one was watching, then deleted the message. Her heart beat faster. Could it really be true? The stories her parents had told her about Earth's last great warship, sent on a final mission before their homeworld fell? Aboard the Harbinger, Commander John Mercer stood on the bridge alone. The ship was designed for a crew of 500, but now its vast corridors echoed empty except for the soft hum of machines. John looked exactly as he had 70 years. Ego, a man in his late 30s with short brown hair now streaked with a bit of gray, deep blue eyes, and the strong build of someone used to military life. He should have been over 100 years old now, but time had barely touched him. He stared at the trade hub through the main viewport. "Begin passive scans," he told the ship's computer. "Map all changes since our departure." "Scanning, the ship responded in a calm female voice. "Warning. Multiple Axioni vessels detected approaching from the hub. Intercept course." John nodded. As expected, they always were quick to panic. He touched a control panel, and screens lit up around him, showing faces of humans across the galaxy, all receiving his coded message. "Let's see who answers the call," he said quietly. On the Axioni diplomatic vessel racing toward the Harbinger, Captain Zex paced nervously. He had been ordered to make contact with the human ship and determine its intentions, preferably without starting another war. The Axioni had defeated the humans 70 years ago, but it had been costly. If the Harbinger had somehow found allies or new technology during its long absence— "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're being hailed by the human vessel." "Put it through," Zex ordered, straightening his ceremonial collar. The screen lit up to show John Mercer's face. The human looked calm, almost amused. "Captain," John said with a slight nod, "I am Commander John Mercer of the Earth ship Harbinger. I request safe passage and information. We've been away for some time." Zex tried to hide his surprise at seeing a human in a proper military uniform. These days, humans wore work clothes or service uniforms as befitted their lower status. "Commander Mercer," Zex replied carefully, "your ship's appearance is quite unexpected. The war ended 70 years ago. Earth is now under Confederation protection." John's expression didn't change, but something cold flashed in his eyes. "Protection. I see. And the status of human colonies? They contribute to the Confederation economy through resource extraction and technical services," Zex said, using the official phrase for what was essentially forced labor. "How generous of you to include us," John said. His voice was friendly, but his eyes were not. I'll need to speak with human representatives. That might be difficult. There are no human officials anymore. All humans report to Confederation administrators. John was silent for a moment. I see. Then perhaps I should speak with your leaders directly. On the trade hub, Susan Riley slipped away from her post, claiming illness. Her Axioni supervisor barely looked at her as she left. Humans were known to be physically weaker after all. Instead of going to her tiny quarters, she headed to a maintenance tunnel rarely used by anyone. There, a small transmitter was hidden behind a loose panel, something she had built in secret over many months. She activated it and whispered, "Ghost frequency active. Message received. Awaiting instructions." After a moment of static, a voice replied, John Mercer's voice. "Lieutenant Riley, your family served on the Harbinger before my departure. Your grandmother was my chief engineer." Susan gasped. The family stories were true. "Commander Mercer, how is this possible? You haven't aged in 70 years. "Where I went, time flows differently," he answered. "Listen carefully. The Harbinger didn't just survive. It found something that will change everything. But I need to know what happened while we were gone. Tell me about Earth." Susan swallowed hard. Earth is a mining colony now. Most humans work in dangerous areas the Axioni won't go. The best of us are taken as technical experts. They let us live if we're useful. There was silence on the other end. Then John spoke, his voice tight with controlled rage. "And our military?" "Disbanded. Weapons forbidden to humans." "Commander, what happened to the Harbinger? The stories say you were sent through an experimental wormhole." "We were. Earth's last scientist gave us a mission. Find help or find a weapon. We found both. But I need insiders, Susan. People like you." In the darkness of space, several Axioni warships approached the Harbinger. On the flagship, Admiral Krell watched the human vessel with growing concern. The ship's weapon systems were unlike anything he had seen before. New technology had been added to its hull, technology that didn't match any known species. "All ships, prepare to surround the human vessel," he ordered. "If it makes any aggressive move, destroy it immediately." Back on the Harbinger, John watched the approaching ships on his screen. "They never learn," he said to himself. Then to the ship, "Activate the veil."
"Veil activated," the ship responded. Outside, the massive Harbinger seemed to shimmer and then simply vanished. The Axioni ship's sensors went wild, trying to locate it, but the warship was gone. In the High Council chamber on the Axioni homeworld, alarms sounded.
The counselors looked at each other in confusion until the Supreme Leader entered, his face grim. "The humans have returned," he announced. "And they have the one thing we feared they might find." "What's that?" asked a younger counselor. The Supreme Leader's expression darkened. "The truth about how the war really started, and technology from the ancients." He turned to his security chief. "Find every human with technical skills or military background, detain them all, now." But it was already too late. Across the galaxy, humans were receiving the message. The Harbinger had returned. And this time, it wasn't running away. The lost human warship returned, and its wrath shook the galaxy. Part 2. Whispers of Rebellion. 2 days after the Harbinger vanished from Centauri space, the Axioni Confederation was in chaos. Emergency meetings filled every government building. On their homeworld, ships patrolled human settlements with orders to crush any sign of uprising. The Axioni knew what the return of Earth's legendary warship might mean. William Carter wiped sweat from his forehead as he fixed pipes in the lower levels of Tau Station. At 45, he had spent his entire life as a maintenance worker, fixing the systems that kept the massive space station running. The Axioni barely noticed him. He was just another human doing the work they didn't want to do. "Carter," a voice called from his wrist communicator. "Fuel leak in Section 12. Get there, now." "On my way," William answered, gathering his tools. He didn't recognize the voice, but that wasn't unusual. There were hundreds of Axioni supervisors on the station. and they all sounded the same to him. When he reached Section 12, he found no fuel leak. Instead, a small package was hidden behind a panel. Inside was a communicator unlike any he had seen before. It activated as soon as he touched it. "William Carter," said a man's voice. "Former Earth Navy engineer, hidden during the surrender to protect your family. I am Commander John Mercer of the UES Harbinger." William nearly dropped. The device, that's impossible. The Harbinger was lost decades ago. Not lost, sent away, and now returned. There was a pause. "Your father served under me. He spoke of you often." William's heart pounded. His father had disappeared when William was just a boy. The Axioni said he died in an accident, but William had never believed them. "What do you want from me?" he asked. "Access, information, and when the time comes, action." Tau Station controls traffic through 3 major jump points. When we move, those jump points must be secured. William looked around nervously. The Axioni have tightened security everywhere. They're arresting humans for no reason. "They're afraid," John replied. "For the first time in 70 years, they have reason to be. Will you help us?" William thought of his life. Endless work, no freedom, no future. "Yes," he said finally. "What do I need to do?" Across the galaxy on the research planet Helios, Dr. Patricia Wells worked in her laboratory. She was one of the few humans allowed to conduct advanced research, but always under Axioni supervision. Today, the guards seemed especially tense. Dr. Wells, her supervisor, an Axioni scientist named Threll, entered the lab. "You will explain these calculations immediately." He showed her a data pad with complex equations, her private work, stored on a secured system that should have been impossible to access. "These are theoretical models for energy distribution," she said calmly, though her heart raced. "Nothing practical. These look like weapon designs," Threll accused. "Attempting to develop human weapons is punishable by death." "They're theoretical physics models," Patricia insisted. "If your scientists can't tell the difference between energy distribution, equations, and weapon designs, perhaps you should replace them." Threll's 4 eyes narrowed. "You will be watched more closely from now on." After he left, Patricia returned to her work, careful to show no reaction. The equations weren't for weapons. They were for something far more important, a way to communicate, without the Axioni knowing. That night, as she slept, her personal computer lit up with a message. "Dr. Wells, your father helped design the Harbinger's core systems. We need to finish what he started." On the Axioni homeworld, High Administrator Krell addressed the council. "The human ship must be found and destroyed immediately. Our informants report increasing communication among human populations." "Are they planning rebellion?" asked a council member. "Impossible," another scoffed. "Humans have been subjugated for generations. They have no weapons, no ships." Krell slammed his fist on the table. "They have the Harbinger, a ship that somehow vanished from our sensors. A ship commanded by a human who should be dead by now. Do not underestimate this threat." He activated a holographic display showing dozens of human faces. "These are humans with suspected ties to the old Earth military. Some of them are descendants of the Harbinger's original crew. I have ordered their immediate arrest." As the council argued, Susan Riley was being transported to an Axioni security facility. The guards had come for her just hours after her conversation with Commander Mercer. Someone had detected her hidden transmitter. The transport ship was small, with just 2 Axioni guards watching her. Susan kept her eyes down, playing the part of the submissive human. Inside, her mind raced. The Harbinger was real. Commander Mercer was real. Maybe freedom was possible after all. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. The engines made a strange sound, then stopped completely. The guards looked around in confusion. "What's happening?" one asked. "Engine failure," the other replied, checking systems. "We're drifting." A new ship appeared outside their viewport, sleek and black, with no visible markings. It was much smaller than the Harbinger, but clearly built with similar technology. "Unknown." "Vessel," the guard called over the communication system. Identify yourself." There was no answer. Instead, a beam of pale blue light enveloped the transport. The guards reached for their weapons, but they moved in slow motion, as if trapped in thick liquid. Susan found she could move normally. The transport's hatch opened. A human man in a simple gray uniform stood there. "Lieutenant Riley," he said. "Commander Mercer sends his apologies for the delay. Please come with me." As Susan boarded the mysterious ship, the guards remained frozen in place. "What did you do to them?" she asked. "Temporal field," the man explained. "They're experiencing time at a fraction of normal speed. To them, this entire rescue takes less than a second." The ship moved away quickly, then vanished into what looked like a small tear in space itself. Back on Tau Station, William Carter received his first real mission. The package delivered to him contained small devices no bigger than coins. Instructions told him to place them at specific locations throughout the station, near communication arrays, power junctions, and security centers. As he planted the fifth device, an Axioni security patrol rounded the corner. William quickly pretended to fix a nearby panel. "Human," the lead guard called. "What are you doing here?" William kept his eyes down. "Fixing a power relay, sir. It was causing fluctuations in this sector." The guard checked his datapad. "There's no repair order for this section." William's heart sank. "My supervisor sent me. Maybe he forgot to file the paperwork." The guard stepped closer. "All humans are required to have proper authorization. You will come with us for questioning." As the guard surrounded him, all the lights on the station suddenly went out. Emergency systems kicked in, but they too failed seconds later. In the darkness, William felt a hand grab his arm. It was human. "Move now," a woman's voice whispered. "Commander's orders." Across the galaxy, humans received coded messages. Former soldiers, engineers, scientists, people the Axioni thought were harmless, began to act. Small sabotages, missing supplies, mysterious power failures. On his ship, Commander John Mercer studied reports from his growing network. "Show me the Axioni fleet movements," he ordered. A holographic map appeared showing hundreds of Axioni ships moving toward human settlements, mining colonies, and workstations. "They're going to make an example of someone," Susan Riley said, standing beside him now. "That's how they maintain control. One brutal show of force and everyone falls back in line." John nodded grimly. "Then we need to be ready. The Harbinger can't be everywhere." "The Harbinger doesn't need to be," Susan replied. "We have something more powerful now." "What's that?" John asked. Susan smiled. "Hope. The lost human warship returned, and its wrath shook the galaxy." Part 3. The Hidden Fleet. 1 month after the Harbinger's return, rumors spread across the galaxy. Humans whispered about ships appearing and disappearing near remote outposts. The Axioni denied everything, but their increased military presence told a different story. On board the Harbinger, Commander John Mercer stood before a group of rescued humans. Susan Riley was there, along with William Carter, who had narrowly escaped. Tau Station. Dr. Patricia Wells had been rescued during transport to an Axioni prison. 20 others stood with them, all former prisoners or workers who had been contacted by Mercer's growing network. "You've all seen what the Axioni have done to our people," John said. "Today you'll see what we've been preparing for the past 70 years. He pressed a control on his wrist device. The wall behind him became transparent, revealing the vastness of space. At first it seemed empty, then lights began to appear one by one until hundreds of them filled the view. "Ships," Susan gasped. "So many ships." John nodded. "The Harbinger wasn't just lost in space. Where I went, time moved differently. What was 70 years for you was nearly 300 for me. I used that time to build." The lights grew closer, revealing vessels of various sizes. Some were small and fast-looking. Others were massive, rivaling the Harbinger itself. All had the same sleek, dark design with glowing blue lines running along their hulls. "But how?" Patricia asked. The materials alone would take centuries to gather. The place beyond the wormhole held remnants of an ancient civilization, John explained. They called themselves the Precursors. They mastered technologies we can barely understand. Manipulation of time, space, even gravity itself. Their civilization fell millions of years ago, but their automated systems remained. He gestured to the fleet. These ships were built by those systems following my designs, and they're crewed by humans. Impossible, William said. There weren't enough humans on the Harbinger to crew even one of these ships. John's expression grew somber. When the Harbinger went through the wormhole, there were 20 crew members with me. In the time-altered space we lived, had families. Generations passed. There are now over 10,000 humans who have never seen Earth. They've been training, all their lives, for this moment. The humans stared in awe at the fleet. For 70 years they had lived as slaves, believing they were alone in the universe. Now hope spread through the room like fire. On Europa, one of Jupiter's moons in Earth's solar system, thousands of humans worked in ice mines. The work was dangerous, and many died each year from accidents or exposure. But the ice contained rare minerals the Axioni needed, so the work continued. Frank Miller had been born on Europa. At 32, he had never known anything but the mines. His parents had told him stories about Earth, about freedom, but they seemed like fairy tales. Today, the warning sirens blared. Frank looked up from his work to see Axioni guards rushing through the tunnels. All humans, return to your quarters immediately. The announcement echoed through the complex. This is not a drill. As Frank and the others headed back to their living areas, he noticed something strange. The Axioni weren't just ordering humans around, they seemed afraid. In his small room, Frank turned on the news feed. What he saw made his blood run cold. Axioni battleships surrounded Europa, weapons aimed at the human settlements. High Administrator Krell's face appeared on the screen. Attention, all peoples of the Confederation. A dangerous human terrorist group has been uncovered. Their leader, claiming to command the lost Earthship Harbinger, has been broadcasting seditious messages. This will not be tolerated. Krell's 4 eyes narrowed. To demonstrate our resolve, we have surrounded the Europa mining colony, where these terrorists have been operating. If the human known as John Mercer does not surrender within 1 hour, we will make an example of this colony. Frank's heart pounded. The Harbinger? The ship from the old stories? Across the galaxy, the message was broadcast on all channels. On the Harbinger, John Mercer watched with his officers. They're bluffing, one said. They need those mines. John shook his head. They're not bluffing. They'll sacrifice the entire colony to maintain control. Susan stepped forward. We can't surrender, and we can't reach Europa in time. John looked at the fleet of ships surrounding the Harbinger. No, but we can show them they're not the only ones with power. He turned to his communications officer. Broadcast on all frequencies. Make sure every species in the galaxy sees this. On Europa, Frank huddled with other miners in the common area. Armed Axioni guards stood at the doors. The hour was almost up, and everyone knew what would happen next. Suddenly, every screen in the colony changed. Instead of Krell's face, they showed a human man in a simple uniform with commander's insignia. I am John Mercer of the Earthship Harbinger, he said. To the Axioni Confederation, your threats against innocent miners will not succeed. You have 30 minutes to withdraw your forces from Europa. After that, we will take action. The Axioni guards laughed. One pointed at the screen. Empty threats from a dead species. Above Europa, the Axioni battle group prepared to fire. The command ship's captain received direct orders from Krell himself. Make it quick, but make sure it's recorded. The galaxy must see what happens to those who defy us. As the weapons charged, something strange happened. Small tiers appeared in space around each Axioni ship. From each tier emerged a small, dark object no bigger than a shuttle. Unknown vessels approaching, an Axioni officer reported. Minimal energy signatures. No weapons detected. Destroy them, the captain ordered, but before they could fire, blue light surrounded each Axioni ship. The light pulsed once, and every system on the ships went dead. Weapons, engines, even life support, all stopped working at once. In orbit around Europa, 20 Axioni warships drifted helplessly. Their crews struggled to restore power, but nothing worked. It was as if time itself had stopped for their technology. On screens across the galaxy, John Mercer's face appeared again. To all species of the galaxy, for 70 years, the Axioni have ruled through fear and lies. They claim humans are violent and dangerous. Today we could have destroyed their ships and killed thousands. Instead, we simply disabled them. The view changed to show the powerless Axioni ships. No Axioni lives were lost. When their ships are towed to safety, power will be restored. Remember this moment. Remember who was willing to kill innocents and who chose mercy. In colonies and stations across the galaxy, humans cheered. Other species watched in silence, some with fear, others with growing hope. On the Axioni homeworld, Krell raged. Find their fleet. Destroy it now. But his advisors had troubling news. High Administrator, we're detecting similar energy signatures near every major Axioni base and fleet. They've been watching us for months, perhaps years. Krell's face darkened. Then we use the ultimate weapon. Prepare the Sun Killer. His chief scientist looked alarmed. That weapon has never been tested. It could destroy entire systems. Better that than surrender to humans, Krell hissed, as the Axioni prepared their super weapon. John Mercer gathered his commanders. Phase 1 is complete. The Europa demonstration showed the galaxy our power and our restraint. Now we move to Phase 2. Susan looked at the star map showing Axioni movements. They're mobilizing everything they have, and intelligence suggests they're activating a weapon called the Sun Killer. John nodded grimly. Dr. Wells, is your team ready? Patricia stepped forward. Yes, Commander. The countermeasure is prepared. Then send the signal, John ordered. Activate all cells. Across the galaxy, on 100 worlds, humans who had planted the small devices William Carter had carried received the signal. The revolution had begun. The lost human warship returned, and its wrath shook the galaxy. Part 4. Wrath unleashed panic spread through the Axioni Confederation. Reports came in from every sector of space, communication systems failing, weapons shutting down, and databases being erased. The small devices planted by humans across hundreds of worlds activated simultaneously. High Administrator Krell addressed the leaders of the other species who had allied with the Axioni. His voice was tense, his 4 eyes constantly blinking, a sign of extreme stress in his species. The human threat is greater than we anticipated, he admitted. But we have gathered the largest fleet in galactic history. 5,000 ships from 12 species now stand ready to crush this rebellion. A reptilian Drax commander hissed. Your ships were disabled without firing a single shot at Europa. What makes you think more ships will help? Krell smiled coldly. Because we have studied the energy signature of their technology, our scientists have developed shields that should resist their temporal attacks, and, he added, we have something they care about. He gestured, and a hologram appeared showing hundreds of human prisoners being loaded onto transport ships. Every human with suspected rebel connections, plus their families. If they disable our ships, the life support on these transports will automatically fail. The alien leaders nodded in approval. Using hostages was a tactic they all understood. On the Harbinger, Commander John Mercer received the news with a grim expression. They're using our people as shields. Susan Riley studied the reports. The transports are scattered throughout their fleet. We can't disable their ships without risking thousands of human lives. And they've adapted their shields, Patricia Wells added. Our temporal weapons may not work as effectively anymore. John turned to William Carter. What about Tau Station? Were your devices successful? William nodded. All communication systems are compromised. We can broadcast on their channels whenever we want. And we've gained access to their secure files. Show me, John ordered. William activated a screen displaying Thousands of classified Axioni documents. We're still sorting through them, but we've already found something important. He pulled up a file. Project Genesis. It appears to be the original plans for the invasion of Earth, dated 5 years before the Proxima War. John studied the document. This contradicts the official history. According to this, the Axioni planned the war before humans had any contact with them. It gets worse, William said, opening another file. This is a genetic research program. They've been experimenting on humans for decades, trying to isolate certain genetic traits. John's face darkened. Send all of this to the ships in our fleet, and prepare a broadcast to the entire galaxy. The combined alien fleet gathered near Centauri, the largest assembly of warships ever seen. Among them were the transports carrying human hostages. The fleet prepared to jump to the last known location of the Harbinger and its mysterious allies. Frank Miller sat with other humans in the crowded hold of a transport ship. After the Europa incident, Axioni guards had stormed the mining colony, selecting certain humans for special reassignment. Now they were prisoners, bargaining chips in a war they barely understood. Is it true? A woman asked Frank. Is the Harbinger really back? Frank nodded. I saw Commander Mercer myself on the broadcast, and I saw what their ships did to the Axioni fleet. Just turned them off like flipping a switch. Hope and fear battled in the faces around him. Hope that humans might finally be free. Fear that they wouldn't live to see it. Suddenly, the transport shuddered. Through a small viewport, Frank saw the massive alien fleet begin its jump to faster-than-light speed. Their destination, the final battle against the human resistance. But as the fleet traveled through hyperspace, something unexpected happened. Every screen on every ship changed to show the same image. Commander John Mercer. To all species of the galaxy, he began. The Axioni have told you that humans started the Proxima War. They claimed we were aggressive, dangerous, and needed to be controlled for the safety of all. The image changed to show Axioni documents, the files William Carter had discovered. These are the Axioni's own secret records. They planned to attack Earth 5 years before the first human Axioni contact. The war was never about defense. It was about capturing humans for genetic research. Throughout the fleet, non-Axioni crews looked at the evidence in shock. More documents appeared, showing details of experiments on humans, breeding programs, and genetic harvesting. For 70 years, John continued, the Axioni have used humans as test subjects, workers, and soldiers. They have done the same to many of your peoples as well, though on a smaller scale. Check your own classified records. You'll find the truth. On the Axioni command ship, Krell screamed orders. Cut the transmission. Block this signal. We can't, his communications officer replied. It's coming through our own secure channels. On all ships, John Mercer's face returned to the screens. We do not wish to fight you. Our quarrel is with the Axioni leadership, not with your peoples. To prove this, I offer you a choice. The image changed to show a small device. On each of your ships, one of these has been planted. If you continue this attack, we will disable your vessels. If you withdraw and declare neutrality, we will take no action against you. As the message ended, chaos erupted across the fleet. Ship captains from other species contacted each other, then the Axioni command. We did not join this alliance to be part of genetic experimentations, the Drax commander snarled at Krell. Our ships are withdrawing. One by one, the allied species broke formation, their ships dropping out of hyperspace or changing course. Within hours, the mighty invasion fleet had shrunk to just under 2,000 ships. All Axioni. Krell was furious, but undeterred. We still outnumber them, and we still have the human hostages. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare the Sunkiller. Target the human colony on Mars first. Let them see what happens to those who defy us. The Axioni fleet emerged from hyperspace, near a small nebula where the Harbinger had been detected. But instead of finding a single ship or even a small fleet, they faced something impossible. Thousands of ships waited for them, arranged in a perfect sphere around the Axioni fleet. Some were massive, easily twice the size of the largest Axioni vessels. Others were small and sleek, clearly designed for speed. All featured the same dark hull with glowing blue energy lines. Impossible, Krell whispered. There can't be this many. His tactical officer's voice shook as she reported, Sir, we're detecting over 5,000 vessels. They've surrounded us completely. The Harbinger itself moved forward from the fleet, its massive form dwarfing even the Axioni command ship. John Mercer's voice came through on all channels. High Administrator Krell. You hold human hostages. We hold your entire fleet. Release our people, and we will allow you to return to your territory. Continue this fight, and none of your ships will return home. Krell laughed bitterly. You forget, Commander. If you attack us, the hostage transports will lose life support. Thousands of humans will die. Look at your transports, Administrator. Krell checked the status of the hostage ships. His 4 eyes widened in shock. All 20 transports showed the same status. Empty. What have you done? He demanded. On the Harbinger's bridge, John stood with Susan, William, and Patricia. Beside them were Frank Miller and the other rescued humans from the transports. While you were watching our ships, John explained to Krell, our people were teleporting your hostages to safety. Another gift from the Precursor's technology. Frank stepped forward. Tell him what else we found, Commander. John nodded. Your sun-killer weapon, Krell. Did you think we wouldn't find it? Did you think we would allow a weapon that could destroy entire solar systems to remain in your hands? He gestured to Patricia, who activated a screen showing the massive weapon. Now, surrounded by human ships, the choice remains the same, John said. Surrender or be disabled. Krell's face twisted with rage. Fire all weapons, he screamed to his fleet. Kill them all. The Axioni ships launched their attack, but nothing happened. Their weapons powered up, but did not fire. Their engines flared, but did not move. One by one, the Axioni vessels went dark, floating helplessly in space, just as they had at Europa. But this time, it wasn't just weapons and engines. Life support, gravity, and emergency systems remained functional, but nothing else. The wrath of the Harbinger and its fleet had fallen upon the Axioni, not in destruction, but in humiliation. The mighty Confederation, which had ruled the galaxy, through fear for generations now drifted powerless. And across the galaxy, billions watched as the age of Axioni rule came to an end. The lost human warship returned, and its wrath shook the galaxy. Part 5. A New Dawn. 3 days after the defeat of the Axioni fleet, representatives from every major species gathered on the neutral world of Taris. The Great Hall was filled with tension as delegates waited for the meeting to begin. No one knew what the humans would demand after their victory. The doors opened and Commander John Mercer entered with Susan Riley, William Carter, Patricia Wells, and Frank Miller beside him. They walked to the center of the hall, where a round table waited. Thank you for coming, John began. For too long, the Axioni have ruled through fear and lies. That ends today. An elder Drax stood. Commander Mercer, your ships have disabled the entire Axioni fleet. What are your terms? Not terms, John replied. Proposals. We seek not to replace one tyrant with another, but to create something new. He activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. First, all subjugated species will be freed. The practice of forced labor will end immediately, the delegates murmured among themselves. Many had benefited from cheap human labor for generations. Second, John continued, the Axioni leadership will face trial for war crimes, not by humans, but by a council representing all species. High Administrator Krell, now under guard at the back of the hall, growled, You have no authority to demand this. John ignored him. Third, and most important, we propose the formation of a galactic council where all species have equal voice. The hall erupted in discussion. Equal representation was a radical idea in a galaxy where power had always belonged to the strongest. As the debate continued, Susan approached John. They're afraid, she said quietly. They've seen what our technology can do. They think we'll become the new Axioni. John nodded. Then we need to show them something else. He turned to Patricia. Is it ready? Yes, Commander, she replied. The first phase is complete. John returned to the center of the hall. Representatives of the galaxy, I understand your concerns. You've seen our ships disable the most powerful fleet ever assembled. You fear we might use this power to rule as the Axioni did. He gestured, and the hologram changed to show a strange device. This is the final gift from the precursors. A technology they developed too late to save their own civilization. We call it the Restoration Engine. Patricia stepped forward. This device can heal devastated worlds, clean polluted atmospheres, and restore dead ecosystems. It can extend lifespans and cure most diseases. And it can be built by any society with basic space technology. The delegates stared in amazement as the hologram showed barren worlds transforming into lush, habitable planets. We offer this freely to all species, John said. Not as conquerors or rulers, but as equals. The knowledge the precursors shared belongs to everyone. For a moment the hall was silent. Then the Drax Elder spoke again. You could rule the galaxy with your fleet. Why share this power? Because that's not who we are, Susan answered. Humanity nearly destroyed itself many times before reaching the stars. We learned that power without wisdom leads only to ruin. Over the next week, negotiations continued. Some species were eager to join the proposed council. Others remained suspicious. The Axioni, their power broken, had little choice but to accept the new reality. On the 8th day, John Mercer received an urgent message from the Harbinger. He excused himself from the talks and hurried back to his ship. What's happened? He asked as he reached the bridge. The science officer pointed to the main screen. We detected this near the edge of charted space. It's like nothing we've seen before. The screen showed a massive object moving slowly toward the galaxy's core. It was not a ship or a natural phenomenon. It looked more like a living structure, its surface constantly shifting. Is it a threat? John asked. Unknown, the officer replied. But it's releasing energy signatures similar to the precursor technology. John studied the readings. Contact Dr. Wells, have her meet me in my quarters and prepare the Harbinger for immediate departure. In his room, John accessed a hidden compartment in the wall. Inside was a small crystalline device, the last gift from the precursor AI that had guided him during his long exile. The device activated at his touch, projecting an image of a humanoid figure made of light. The Harbinger has detected something, hasn't it? The figure asked. Yes, John confirmed. Something large moving toward our galaxy. They have returned sooner than expected, the figure said. The ones who destroyed the precursors. We had hoped to have more time to prepare you. Patricia Wells entered the room. Commander, I've seen the readings. What are we dealing with? John gestured to the light figure. The reason the precursors shared their technology with us. There's another war coming, Patricia. One that will make our conflict with the Axioni seem like a minor skirmish. Meanwhile, on Terrace, the representatives finalized the formation of the Galactic Council. The signing ceremony was broadcast across all worlds. Susan Riley represented humanity, placing her name on the document that would reshape the fate of billions. As she finished signing, a messenger handed her a note. Her face grew serious as she read it. What is it? William Carter asked. John has taken the Harbinger to the outer rim, she said. Something's coming. Something even the precursors feared. Back on Earth, newly freed humans worked to rebuild their homeworld. After 70 years of Axioni rule, much had been lost. But with the Restoration Engine, forests grew where wastelands had been, and cities rose from ruins. Frank Miller stood on a hillside, watching children play in a meadow. Born in the mines of Europa, he had never thought to see Earth's blue sky. A shadow passed overhead, one of the new ships built with precursor technology. Smaller than the Harbinger, but just as powerful. Earth's new defense fleet took shape, Above, ready to protect the homeworld, Frank's communicator beeped. It was a message from Susan Riley. The council is established, Earth is represented, but John has discovered something concerning at the galaxy's edge. We need you back on the Harbinger. That night, as humanity celebrated its freedom across 100 worlds, the Harbinger moved silently through deep space. On its bridge, John Mercer and Patricia Wells studied the approaching entity. "How long do we have?" Patricia asked. "Months, maybe a year," John replied. "Time to prepare, but not much." "Will the council stand together when they learn the truth?" John looked at the stars spreading before them. "They must. What's coming doesn't care about our differences. It only seeks to consume. If we fight separately, we all fall." The Harbinger's engines flared as it accelerated to full speed. The ship that had returned to free humanity now raced to save all life in the galaxy. Behind it, Earth shone like a blue jewel. Free again, but for how long? The wrath that had shaken the galaxy had won the first battle, but the war for survival was just beginning. As the Harbinger vanished into the darkness between stars, a final message was sent to Susan Riley on Earth. "Gather the fleet. Alert the council. What we found beyond the wormhole has found us." In the vast darkness of space, the entity continued its approach. Within its shifting form, the light of consumed stars glimmered like trapped fireflies. A hunger that had devoured entire galaxies now turned its attention to a new target. But for the first time, it would face an enemy prepared for its coming. The lost warship had returned, and the knowledge it brought might be enough to save them all. Or perhaps not. Only time would tell.